Hey, what's up guys and gals? It's Alan Smith, and today I'm going to bring to you another rule set review called Rise and Fight Again. Now, this rule set is set in the American War of Independence, aka Revolutionary War, for those of you that are US citizens. And this rule set was written by Adrian McWalter and Quentin Dalton. They also have written Over Malvern Hill and Forager, another rule set that I reviewed several videos ago you might want to check out. And it is a skirmish game set in the Black Powder era, American War of Independence, Napoleonic War era, and it is a really good game. I've played it a couple times and I've built some figs. I have not yet fleshed out my character cards, but I highly encourage you to go and look at that rule review. I also like that set of rules, also very unique. You'll remember just a little while back I did another rule set review, the ESR Napoleonics, and how much I'm enjoying these non-mainstream, right? Non-mainstream, non-fake news rule sets that are out there. Now, as a gamer, when we first get into gaming, especially when we're younger, we tend to gravitate to the big name games, the big box companies, Games Workshop, Warlord Games, Battlefront. You know, these are the big game giants out there that tend to garner large segments of the market. However, as I have become more of a seasoned gamer and started to grow into the hobby, and thanks to this channel, meeting up with guys like Rob Rhodes, Jason Rowe, I have been able to expand my horizons into other rule sets that are funner to play, more capturing the flavor of the period in terms of how the units and companies and battalions fought battles. This rule set's written by Adrian and Quentin's company, Stand 2 Games. Now, they have a website, stand2games.com, based in Nottingham, England, the home of wargaming, guys, and they have a great website. You can get right on there. They have all the rule sets. It looks like they're starting to release a few miniature kits, so I wish that that this thing continues to grow. So let's dig in. I'm going to just paint more with a broad brush. I don't want to give away too much of this rule set. I want you to get online, contact Adrian, and get this rule set. The main factor in building a force in this rule set is each unit is going to be will have a fatigue score. Now, fatigue score is going to determine a couple things. It's going to determine your ability to take damage before you have to retreat or leave the field, and it will also help determine your two-hit ability when you're hitting and you're attacking a unit. Okay, like a lot of games, and this game is really no different. Your commanders also have a factor in this period of war. So the commanders are going to have a commander value, or they're going to have a command range. If you're out of that command range, it's going to suffer a penalty for your movement for all your actions. So it's the same type of thing here. Now, the thing with the commanders in Rise and Fight Again is you're going to have a control factor and an inspiration score for your commanders. And those are going to affect the commander's ability to rally the troops. So if your unit, your battalion, your regiment represented on the board takes hits, fatigue hits, he has the ability to rally those troops and bring back some fatigue scores, and there's a rolling factor for that as well. So how do we keep track of the fatigues, okay, and the hits, as we would say? So when we played, we used 10-sided dice you can put towards the back of each unit. So you're going to need either a number of 10-sided dice, 12-sided dice, 20-sided dice, whatever you want. Or you could purchase online. There's several vendors out there that will produce little counters that you can tick off fatigue points. So that's basically how we played. Like I said, I will link the video below of the battle we fought, and you can kind of see how we did it. We played a very basic version of the game, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. So the next thing that really stands out when I went through this entire book with a fine-tooth comb is the turn sequence. The turn sequence of the way you conduct your turns. And we're going to go to the close cam, and we're going to do a flip through here of the rule book, and I'll point out the turn sequence. It's very unique, and it is definitely good at capturing the way troops fought battles in this era. You know, moving up, allowing the defenders to fire at the troops that are moving up. If you've ever watched The Patriot, a couple of the battle scenes, you can see basically how it was done. They're literally walking up to each other, point blank, letting the enemy fire at them. Then they would fire. Then there's the ability for you to charge. And like I said, then there's a rally phase where your commander can attempt to rally the troops and bring back fatigue damage to each unit. So it's really unique. I've not ever seen this, and I like it. So basically, the fatigue score also is going to boil down to the quality of the units. In terms of my Continentals that I'm building, we're obviously going to have some mountain men that come down. I'm using as skirmishers. They're going to be pretty low in the fatigue score range, the quality scale, and up to more veteran troops who survived several battles, maybe a little bit more salty now, and that have more fortitude. They're going to be higher. Same with your commanders. So that is when you're building your army. I highly recommend, and what I am doing is basically once all my units are built out, I will have a army sheet that I will print off, put in a slicky, and I will keep with this army. That will basically denote what the fatigue scores are for all the different units and what the commander's ratings are. So I'll have it at a moment's glance. It'll have the roles that I need. Everything will be all on one sheet of paper. So let's go to the close cam here, and let's just do a quick flip through the rule book. I want to show you again how this is another favorite format of mine. It's not too fancy, but it gets the job done, and it's spiral bound. Okay, so let's go to the close cam. Okay, we're gonna just do our quick flip through here. You can see the cover, great artwork, classic, early 1900s. I don't recall the artist, but I really like the cover of the book. We got our nice spiral binding here. American Revolutionary War game, and we got our acknowledgments. We're just gonna flip right on through here. You've got some great photo quality here. We got our table of contents, your introduction to the rules. Now, this is another thing that I've been doing more and more with my rule sets, guys, is I'm getting my tags. I highly recommend that. They're cheap. When these are exhausted, 3M is now making some larger ones, a little easier to write on with a Sharpie, but I really encourage you guys to go to that. It's really helps when you're flipping through the rules during the game. So we got our introduction, types of units, as I mentioned, infantry, cavalry, artillery, typical, going over the quality of the troops. Now here we've got a recommended scale and basing recommendation, and as I said, a lot of this is based on a 28 mil, 20 mil scale. However, the movements and everything work perfectly fine with 15 mil. That's not a problem, and that is my recommended scale. You can fight larger battles on a smaller board, and 15 mil is a lot more cost effective also. Okay, so we'll just keep flipping through here. You'll see here we're going to go over the types of units as far as the quality of the units, as I was speaking to. So we got guard, veteran, regular, trained, militia, and Indian. Okay, so that's going to affect your fatigue scores. It's going to affect your ability to hit. and all that good stuff. We're going to go over our commanders in this section, right? And here are some examples of staying in and out of command. Die 10 roll, unit in command, die 10 roll, unit out of command. Okay, so we got a chart here. Everything's laid out. We've got examples, just, you know, everything you need to work out your first game until you get the feel for the game, and then you're good, you're fine. Every time you play, you'll get better and better at it. Going over your flanks, flanking attacks. Now here's the turn sequence, right? So you get side A moves, side A rallies, side B converts to gives defensive fire. Side A fights close combat. Side B fires remaining units that may not have been able to fire. Side B moves. Side B rallies. Side A fires defensive fire, and on around into the circle you go. This takes a little getting used to. We had to resort back to the rule book several times while we were playing. It would be a good idea to go ahead and photocopy this on a photocopy machine, or just keep it open on the table to this page until you get the hang of how the movement sequence. You're going to see there's more stages to the turn, but this is more accurate of how they fought back in those days, right? So once you get used to it, it's not rocket science. You just follow the chart. You work through the things. Sometimes you can't do defensive fire. Sometimes you don't want to attack. So all of these phases of this turn may not necessarily be employed, right? So you got to consider that too. So I don't consider this controversial. You know, a lot of guys say they don't like this turn sequence. It's too complex. Blah blah blah. Look, it's not that complicated. It's right here. There's little blue boxes. All I have to do is go around the circle, and if those are things that each player wants to do or not do, it's a, you know, I go, you go kind of thing. But you can see here it kind of gets it kind of mixed up more, right? So it's not so cookie cutter, right? So this gives, I think this gives the game a lot more flavor. I really do. It's going to go over your movement. We got charts here for movement. We're going to go terrain, you know, the effects of terrain on your movement. You know, rough ground, normal woods, dense woods. You know, I really like this photo. This is one of my favorites. Interpenetration. This is where, you know, movements, units can move through friendly units and things. This will go over that, which was done in this period of fighting. So again, I'm going to keep saying this. This is what's nice about these, let's call it boutique, right? Boutique rules. They're doing a better job of capturing what it was really like to fight back then. Unlike Black Powder, the Black Powder is a lot more cookie cutter, a lot more I go, you go, a lot more basic. And then you get into a rule set like this, or ESR Napoleonics for the Napoleonic period, and you're going to get more flavor and I think more realism, right? Line of sight. Most war gamers are going to be familiar with those types of rules. Rallies and rallying. Okay, this is going to be important for keeping your troops on the board, so to speak, so that they don't have to retreat or have to just be taken off the board. Now, I will tell you, the game that Rob and I played, I was having a lot of fun with cavalry, and I was having a lot of fun with skirmishers. And don't discount these little skirmish dudes that don't score, not necessarily as high on score, and going up against hardcore regular Brits. I was playing the Continentals, and I was putting the hurting on the Brits. And we just harassing their flanks, you know, using them more as a harassing, like a pesky mosquito, a pesky fly, right? So that was something I was really having fun with in the game that I played, and that's what started to draw me in. Okay, so we're going to go over here. I started circling and starring things so that I would be able to pair up what's what. But It's laid out perfectly fine. You got your firing procedure, your roll to hit here in this section. Driven back, retreating, pulling units back that have low fatigue. So we're going over things that will affect the morale of the troops and staying in the fight. Liberty or death. Close combat. Here, Adrian and Quentin are going to go through the fine points of the close combat of the period and the charging and basically just rolling it out until a unit breaks, right? Which is basically exactly how it worked. Enough of the dudes looked around in the regiment and they're like, hey, this is ridiculous. We're taking some serious losses, and they would fall back, right? You got to consider, most of these guys, especially the Brits, these people were just literally taken off the street in their home country. A lot of them were pushed into service. So, yeah, you got to take that into account with your fatigue scores. All right, so we're going through here. You see, we're moving right on along. It's nothing rocket scientists. Morale states, risk to commander, winning the game. We got our appendix section here. Now we're going to get some examples of playing games of Rise and Fight Again here. And then we'll start getting into some of our sample army lists. This is going to be a big help when I'm done with both of my armies and I sit down and start working out my unit sheets. But you can see here, this is an example of the Crown and Loyalist forces, God Save the King. And we got fatigue score range here that you can assign to units. Special rules that will apply to these units, right? If you want to assign point values to your units. Obviously, so if you're playing with a friend, he's bringing his army, you can, and it breaks down the point values of the units so that your forces will be more evenly matched. Okay. My two armies that I built, I literally built them almost like mirrors of each other. Same number of artillery, same number of stock troops, etc., etc. All right. So anyone come over to my studio, and we'll roll up a game here in the future when the studio's done. We're going to already immediately have properly matched armies for this game. Okay. And go into some more sample lists. You got Hessians. Sample list for Hessians. Right. Great photo of a Hessian troop right there. American forces. So I put a star there because this is going to be what I'll be referring to here soon when I finish my Continentals. And right onto the back of the book. More appendix, recruiting your forces, basically army building, list building, I'm big on that. Weather factors, you can throw that into a game, right? Field works. A lot of the battles back in the American War of Independence were fought against field works or fortresses and things, so you can do sieges and all kinds of cool stuff with this, okay? But have fun with it, if you're a 28 mil, 25 mil guy, you play 20 mil. If you're just stumbling onto this and you're kind of just getting into historical gaming, my personal suggestion and my recommendation is my favorite scale is 15 mil. It's more affordable. It's pretty easy to paint. You watch some of my painting videos before this. I'll show you some of the stuff. I also want to encourage you guys to get onto my Facebook group. I post a lot more things there more regularly. Alan Smith Hobby and Wargaming group. Get on there. It's easy to join. I also want to encourage you guys, feel free to post your projects, articles, wargaming articles, hobby articles, builds. It's not just for me, guys. It's not just to keep track of what I'm doing. I also want to encourage you other members in the group to share what you're doing and getting some conversation started on aspects of the hobby. Now, one thing I will say, and I totally agree with Adrian McWalter on this point, button counters, right? We don't want a bunch of button counters. What is that, you say? What's a button counter? Okay, it's someone that's going to literally nitpick every little thing. It's okay to say, hey, that regiment had yellow facings, you know, friendly suggestion. I've made mistakes painting these armies. I've had some friendly suggestions, but I've also had people be ridiculous with, you know, oh, they had brass buttons and you painted silver buttons, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's getting into this minutia. I know there were some guys in one of the Facebook groups I was in. They were criticizing the artwork on the cover of this book because of the hats the Brits were wearing in the thing. And there's a lot of discrepancy there, guys, with building units back here. And you'll find that I've got my encyclopedia over here that I refer to for uniforms, and there's guys that criticize that book and say it's not accurate enough. Look, over here in the colonies at that period of time, there is a lot of speculation whether things were regulation or the British or Continentals would basically just make do with what they had and whatever dyes they had to make uniforms when the uniforms would wear out, and etc. So it's not so cut and dry. A lot of that stuff did not survive modern times. Examples of uniforms and examples of regiment buttons and cuffs and all this stuff that, you know, button counters obsess about. So it's not always so cut and dry. Here's a good way to look at it. If you got blue guys on the board and red guys on the board, you know that one side's the Brits and one side's the colonials, okay? Let's not get too bogged down. It is nice to research, but there's so many regiments of the British. There's so many, you know, militia groups and states, or what they would call the various colonies. You know, Massachusetts, Virginia. They all had these homespun units, and there's so much controversy over, you know, what shade of blue was it? Did they use powder blue? Did they use royal blue? You know, so you can't really get bogged down in too much of that minutia. So let's not get a bunch of that garbage started in the group, please. Let's just keep it friendly, and friendly recommendations or suggestions. I had someone say, "Hey, your Brits, they're supposed to have white trim on their caps, right?" And I was like, "Oh crap!" And I looked in my book, and of course, there they were. They had white trim on their caps. I had to go back in and put that on. So that's kind of a major uniform faux pas, but you see where I'm going with this. All right, I want to thank you guys for watching. I want to thank Adrian, and Quentin for writing these rules. Really enjoying them. And want to encourage you guys to keep moving forward with your company. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. And remember, for God's sake, don't stop wargaming.